There's a phenomenon that thousands of people are experiencing after they undergo a psychedelic trip, whether that be LSD, mushrooms, DMT, or whatever. The phenomenon is that after one undergoes a psychedelic trip, often a very intense one where the ego begins to dissolve or is completely dissolved, cannabis appears to have much more intense effects, almost like a flashback from the psychedelic trip. And the once joyful and relaxing highs that weed once brought you now bring you back into the psychedelic realm. Now, this occurrence isn't scientifically backed at all, nor does it happen to everyone who takes psychedelics, but the fact that thousands of people report this phenomenon is so fascinating. For many people, the effects of weed are forever changed, or at least changed for the long term, when one undergoes an intense psychedelic experience, whether that be from LSD, mushrooms, DMT, ayahuasca, or some other psychedelic. For me, it was psilocybin mushrooms that forever changed the way marijuana affected me. I took LSD 3 or 4 times before ever trying mushrooms, and it didn't significantly alter the effects cannabis had on me. But on mushrooms, my ego was completely shattered. I literally felt like I was reborn. I felt like a caterpillar inside a cocoon, metamorphosizing. And when the experience was over, I'd be completely different. Perhaps an entirely different organism for all that I knew during that time. This mushroom experience frightened me, probably scared me away from doing mushrooms again for a very long time. And now I find, when I smoke weed again, I feel much more paranoid. It's like my ego senses a danger, like it could be killed again, and I start thinking about everything that could go wrong. A full-blown psychedelic trip, such as a high dose of mushrooms, LSD, or DMT, throws me inside a door, and when the experience is over, the door opens up and spits me back out. On weed, it's like I'm peeking through the door. On the other side is the death of my ego, and just a slight nudge would be enough to push me through that door. And paranoid thoughts aren't all that encompasses my mind. I'm not paranoid completely 100% of the time on weed now, but when I'm not having paranoid thoughts, I'm usually pondering the existence of life or thinking about my lineage, which are thoughts I would always think about on psychedelics. And when I look at people on weed now, they would seem much more creature-like, like an ape, which is exactly how I would perceive people on psychedelics. So basically for me, weed now is just taking every psychedelic effect and just lessening it slightly. Now, the experience one has on a classical psychedelic, like LSD or mushrooms, doesn't have to be an intense one for the effects of cannabis to be altered. I have read and heard many accounts of people only taking 100 to 150 micrograms of acid, nowhere near ego death, and still, afterwards, smoking weed is giving them psychedelic flashbacks again. I can no longer relax on weed. I can no longer just chill with the boys. I can't jam out to music like I used to. Now I'm just quiet and paranoid. There's been a couple moments where I can laugh and have fun on weed again, but those moments are short-lived, and at least 80% of the time, I'm just anxious and paranoid. And it isn't just the psychedelic thoughts that return on weed. The visuals are significantly enhanced as well, much more psychedelic-esque. I can close my eyes and see almost identical patterns to what I can recall seeing on LSD. And before I ever took that substance, I had hardly any visuals on weed at all. In a way, it's like psychedelic gave me a reference point on hallucinogenic visuals, and ever since I've seen those visuals, I just can't go back. I'm not saying my weed visuals now are as intense as LSD or mushroom visuals. On LSD and mushrooms, patterns encompass my entire vision. They fill the wall, they cover the ceiling. On weed, the visuals are just more general, in the field of vision type thing. Not as intense as a full-blown psychedelic trip, but still much more intense than if I had never had a psychedelic experience. Oh, I long to have that nice, relaxing high with the boys again, chill out with some music, eat some Cheez-Its, maybe dance a little. Due to the lack of knowledge behind this phenomenon, I'm forced to kind of experiment in an attempt to get the old effects of weed back. For the next few months, I am doing a complete detox from both psychedelics and cannabis to hopefully kind of reset my brain. I was kind of done with high doses of psychedelics anyway, considering my last mushroom trip was just absolutely terrifying. It was extremely enlightening, but it did scare the shit out of me. However, if you are experiencing more psychedelic-like effects from cannabis, it can be kind of nice to have a quick access to the divine for an hour or two. After my intense psychedelic experience, I was able to use weed to pick apart flaws in myself and come up with solutions to try and improve those flaws. I'm also able to tap into the feeling of oneness on weed now. And even through the paranoia, I can still know deep down that everything is one, and no matter what difficulties I might be going through, it's all because of love, and in the end, everything will be okay. It's just that for whatever reason, the paranoia sometimes consumes me, and that is why I am quitting weed and psychedelics for a while. If it wasn't for the paranoia, I would honestly love the new effects that psychedelics was having on me. Quick psychedelic access for an hour? That's great. But just fuck the paranoia. And also, I feel like the paranoia is just my ego not wanting to die again. If I integrate what psychedelics have shown me, like becoming too attached to my ego, not overly desiring things, and just living in the moment, I feel like the paranoia on weed would go away. Because right now, I take a hallucinogen, the effects start kicking in, and my ego is just like, ah shit, here we go again. But if I lose attachment to that ego, maybe the effects will go away. I don't know. Remains to be seen. But I'm doing a complete detox right now. If you guys experience similar effects on cannabis after taking a psychedelic, let me know in the comments. If you have any advice on how to get the normal effects of weed back again, let me know in the comments. That's all I really have for you guys today. Leave a like. Helps promote the content so more people can see it. And if you want to see more content like this, consider subscribing. As always, have a great day, and peace.